Welcome, everybody. It's another week of Transform Your Birth. And today I have with me another Kate, a beautiful Kate with a little boy called Felix, who's 2.5 now. And I've asked Kate to come in and share her story. And I'm going to hand over to Kate now. So, Kate, tell us a little bit about how you felt in your pregnancy and what sort of preparation you did.
Hi, Tracy. Thanks for having me on. During pregnancy, was really fearful of the birth, the end of pregnancy part. So I spent pretty much all of my pregnancy in study mode, training up for the big event, the marathon, the birth.
Yep.
Attending courses and reading books and talking to lots of people, trying to do what I could to prepare myself. Because, I was initially coming from a place of fear. But the more learning that I did, I started to become really amazed with what I was learning about women's bodies and the possibilities of the
That's interesting.
ways of being able to have the most natural birth that I could achieve.
Kate, we just lost you. Hang on.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, Welcome, everybody. Another episode this week of the Transform Your Birth podcast. And today I have the lovely Kate, and Kate's got a little boy called Felix, and Kate's going to share her story this week. So, Kate, welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to be here, Tracy.
Yeah. Now, Kate, tell us about how you felt in your pregnancy and what you did to prepare for birth.
Yeah, sure. So, getting pregnant, becoming pregnant, was a big deal for us. We tried for a long time to have Felix. And so when I was finally blessed with pregnancy, I went straight into study mode on preparing for the birth.
Mm-hmm.
I was really anxious and fearful of the birth being really painful from everything that I'd seen and heard about, in media and that sort of thing. Sorry, Tracy, can we start again?
Sure. Just start when you're ready.
All right. So when I fell pregnant with Felix, was very excited to be having a baby, but also very anxious about the birth and the birth process.
Most women are.
So I started studying and trying to learn and find out as much as I possibly could about birth and how to achieve a natural birth and how to just survive it, basically. It was so new to me. So I did lots of courses and read lots of books and spoke to lots of people to learn everything that I possibly could. And the more I learnt about the amazing female body that is designed to give birth, the more I started to believe that it could be possible to have a baby and actually see the birth as being a positive rather than something to be fearful of. And
I'm
so
interested about women's change process. Can you identify, with all your study and your courses or whatever it was that you did, what was the turning point that helped you to move from feeling fearful to actually, I can do this, and even excited?
I remember in one of the books that I was reading, it was talking about women from like centuries ago, and women and how they birthed in nature or at home, and in a place where they felt comfortable with people they felt comfortable with, and that the birth wasn't something that was like painful or something that they were scared of. It was, it's hard to explain, but it was, I think that there was a story that I read in, I can't remember her book, is it Eva May?
Ina May Gaskin.
Yes, so I read her book. And I
Great
think there
book.
was a story in there about a doctor that turned up to one of the women, and basically she was having the baby in her bedroom, and he was about to administer something to knock her out before the birth or something. And she's sort of gone, why would you want to do that? And he's like, well, I thought that you were in pain. And she was sort of like, no, I don't want that. Like, I'm just having my baby. And she went ahead and had her baby. And I remember reading how he was in awe of that. And then it sort of started his whole journey on what birthing women need and what it really is to give birth. And I just remember being amazed by any of the stories that I came across that weren't fixated on the pain and agony and screaming that you see on TV shows, or however birth is depicted in other facets that we see and hear about. So that really made me curious to keep learning down this path of how can I achieve or try to achieve a birth that's natural and calm and positive, and starting to shift my own mindset. And for me, part of shifting my own mindset was just based on fake it till you make it, because deep down I was petrified still. But I was reading my colorful post-it notes on the shower screen door, telling me all these beautiful affirmations about my body and myself being strong. And I just grew to really, try to develop myself, I guess, down that path to prepare myself for birth.
That's really interesting, Kate, because I think just the idea that women can do this, and women always have done this, and think of all of the women that have given birth for us all to exist. We know that that's true on a very deep level. We know that we used to lose women in childbirth also. And fortunately now we've got the safety net of the medical system, but we have to reclaim our confidence in our belief that our bodies can do this. I mean, we've evolved to do this. And there's a lot of messages out in the world that tell us as women that we're not enough. We're not tall enough, thin enough, short enough, driving the right car, living in the right place. We've got to reclaim our enoughness, that we can do this. So you were able to overcome your fear. As you got closer to birthing day, how were you feel? What were you noticing in the way that you felt, Kate, from that fear? Like what sort of feelings were you feeling as you got closer? Were you feeling more confident?
I was, definitely. I was feeling more confident. I was feeling that the things that I'd been telling myself, the positive affirmations I'd been telling myself, I was starting to believe.
Yeah.
But the real learning for me obviously came after having him, and then going, wow, yes, I've come full circle. There's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah.
So,
wow. All right. Well, let's fast forward to the day that Felix was coming along. So share your story.
Well, at 36 weeks, I went for my checkup, and I'd been really healthy up until that point. Went and saw the doctor, and he basically sent me straight to hospital. I was quite swollen with preeclampsia, which is an issue with the placenta. Basically, the baby needs to come. And I spent 2 or 3 days in hospital. I guess they were sort of giving me a few injections and preparing for me to have a baby come early. But because it took a couple of days, they didn't sort of rush me to have the baby that day. I kind of knew that I had a little bit of time up my sleeve. And during that time, they were obviously talking about inducing me. So I was able to, thanks to being able to have a chat with you about induction and sort of get my thoughts together that my baby was coming much sooner than I had planned, but that I was excited to be having the baby. Yeah. And when the day came to be induced, that was May 15th, which I believe was a Friday. And I remember it being a Friday because the doctor, who was the same doctor who sent me to the hospital, he was in quite a hurry for me to have my baby, being, I think, a Friday. And so I think when it came to the day of, there were lots of events that unfolded that tested me and challenged me to really step up and to channel that inner strength that I'd been telling myself about for months. You know, from the very beginning, it was the doctors breaking my waters, but then not giving me the chance to see if that might kickstart labor for me. I was already 3 centimeters dilated completely naturally. I think my body must have known that it was ill. Yeah. And I was probably going to have the baby soon anyway. Yeah. So just naturally, my body was already 3 centimeters dilated. They broke my waters, but the doctors only gave me 20 minutes, and then they're sort of knocking down the door to give me a syntocinon drip and induce me. And I just remember feeling really rushed and really pressured to make a choice and to make a decision without having any time to really consider it. Yeah. So from the very beginning, I and my husband, who is by my side the entire time and incredibly supportive, I just sort of asked if I could just have a moment to think about that. I asked questions about it. What if we wait a little bit longer, that sort of thing. You know, it was unfortunate that this particular doctor, who was older and very experienced, he ran the joint there at this particular hospital, and he was very much of the opinion that as a first-time mother, and I heard those words way too often, as a first-time mother, it was very unlikely that just breaking my waters was going to send me into a natural labor. So I asked for a little bit more time. During that time, because I didn't feel ready to be induced immediately, I just asked for a bit of space so that I could just collect my thoughts and feel ready. The doctors just continued to check on me really regularly, to the point where I wasn't getting the space and the time that I really needed to collect my thoughts. And so I took myself into the bathroom of the birthing suite, and my husband lovingly asked if I wanted him in there too, and I said, no, thank you. I just really need to be on my own at the moment. Would you mind sort of just standing by the door and just be the go-between for a minute? And in the bathroom, I just remember going through a wave of emotions. You know, being angry that this was happening, upset, scared, you know, that induction was pretty much imminent. And I was, just a ball of nerves. But so I tried, you know, doing all my different yoga poses, trying to breathe, trying to listen to music. And I can't even really explain that. I just went through this whole wave, and then just remember opening the door and going, right, I'm ready. Let's do this.
Kate, I love
Fire up that
story.
syntocinon.
Yeah, I love how you claimed your own personal space in that situation. You know, in my experience as a doula, when women are faced with a new path that they have to walk and given the time and the space to recalibrate, they're often able to adjust and pivot in the way that they need to. But when they're rushed, when they're pressured, when they're coerced, and often can be with quite negative language, you know, oh, you're a first-time mother, it's not going to happen, we need to do this. Well, you know, they don't actually really know that. And those sorts of words are not encouraging. They're more likely to contract a woman and bring fear and tension into her body. So it's not actually constructive. And so reclaiming your personal space and giving yourself the time needed to recalibrate is a really powerful thing to do. Well done, you, for claiming that space to do it when you were ready, not because somebody else felt pressured or wanted you to do it. I think that's amazing.
Thanks, Tracy. Honestly, that part of the journey, which was even before being induced, you know, and after being induced, that set off 26 hours of a glorious journey, which was then just the 26 hours of the beginning of the next chapter. So actually taking what turned out to be 2 or 3 hours, but to me felt like 15 minutes.
Right. So that's how long you were in the bathroom for?
That's actually how long I was in. I thought, I'm only in here 15 minutes. Would you stop knocking on the door? You know, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I was in there for 2 to 3 hours, just going through the motions. And I honestly put down everything that followed, and the, I guess, sense of control I felt I had over my birthing experience, even though I was really just a passenger. But that sense of control really helped me to get through the challenging times of that whole labor, as well as what followed after the birth for Felix. So having that time, it just did so much for my mental space. And it really, I think, was the answer to me being able to pull off a rather difficult birthing experience, but with no pain relief. And actually having a natural vaginal birth, which is exactly what I wanted. But there were so many hurdles. But it got, thanks to having that time, it really did help me just to set myself straight, and then on my terms be able to go, I'm ready. Let's go.
So tell us what happened when you came out of the bathroom. You then agreed to have the syntocinon.
Yes. So I agreed to be induced, and we just got that ball rolling. And of course, it, you know, I felt it, you know, it came fast and hard, and it got sort of straight into that process of having the contractions. And over that time, I was being closely monitored, obviously not just because I'd been induced, but I had the preeclampsia condition as well, and high blood pressure. So I was being very closely monitored, and I wasn't receiving a lot of time just to be with my husband and just to experience the contractions and make my own way through those contractions. So I ended up putting on some sound cancelling headphones, and they were just the ticket for me. I just had them on. I didn't feel like listening to any music. I just needed them to block out everyone else who was in the room. And so there was consistently, you know, between 1 and 3 people in the room with me the entire time. And so I just needed that chance to just zone out of that real world and just be in my own space. And to do that, I just used the headphones, not listening to any music, just listening to my own breath. And that just helped me to really get then into the zone of things. You know, I was trying things like going into the bath there at one point, which I found really helpful until I heard the woman next door in the birthing suite next door, who was a few hours ahead of me. And she was, I heard her screaming. And I just remember feeling these intense contractions and saying to Rowan, get me an epidural. Like, I cannot do any more than I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And he was, you know, on board with anything that I felt that I needed. But because I hadn't accepted any gas or any other pain relief, the doctors didn't go calling for that epidural. And I was so grateful, because just with a change of position, getting out of the bath,
Yeah.
I'd forgotten that I'd even asked for it.
Yeah.
And forgotten all about that, and was able to just sort of get on with it. And I was so pleased that I didn't get the epidural, because when it came to my turn to push, I realized that it wasn't pain. I don't believe that that woman would have been feeling. It was power, because I came the pushing phase for me, I felt zero pain, zero at all. Like,
Wow.
it was the best part of the birthing experience, yet it was the part that I'd feared the most for so long. And I remember turning to Rowan as I'm pushing, going, this is amazing. This feels so good to push. Like, yeah, I know, right? So unexpected to have felt that way. So I was very pleased I didn't get the epidural. One of the things that I did need to negotiate during the labor was the level of syntocinon, because of some of that research I'd done, I knew that I should be expecting a break between contractions, and I wasn't getting a break. And so I was starting to find it was unmanageable. Some of the intense sensations were becoming a bit unmanageable. So I just continued to negotiate with the doctors, and they continued to turn it down on a number of occasions. And I think that really helped me then to manage the contractions. Because of course, they're telling me, oh, this syntocin, it's going to mimic what your body would be doing naturally. And, they're telling you that. But it's so much more intense. And you're not given a break unless you say, hey, turn it down, please. I need to be catching my breath. And then that really helped me to then manage each contraction, having a short break between. So
now that right there is gold. When a woman goes on the syntocinon drip, every woman's got a different metabolic response to it, a different level of ripeness, a different phase of the labor. All these things are going to influence how she experiences those sensations. And like inductions work very well if they mimic a normal labor, just like Kate's saying. But when they're put on too strong and bringing those contractions crashing in onto each other, it's too much. It's too much for the mother, and it's too much for the baby, and it's more likely to send either or both into distress. And so by Kate saying, can you just pull it back a notch so that the contractions aren't crashing into each other, is a wonderful thing to learn that you can ask for, and just help give them feedback so that that induction can mimic a normal labor, because it is stronger on the mother's body, and it can send women into very strong contractions very close together too soon, which then doesn't give her the ability to rejuvenate and rest between those contractions. So I'm so pleased, Kate, that you've brought that out in your story, because I think there's a lot to be learned from working with the labor in a way that makes it manageable for both the mother and the baby, which is, we want the babies to be happy during labor as well. Well done. So yeah, with that negotiations, and then you also said, which is interesting, how when you change position, you're no longer feeling, or you didn't even remember to ask for the epidural again. That's another great little piece of advice there. So you labored, Kate, for how long before you were in that pushing stage?
Oh, I would have been laboring for maybe 23 hours.
Wow. Did
And I
you
think I
know?
pushed for almost 3.
Wow. So it was a bit of a
I
marathon. Did you know it was
I
that
had
long?
no idea,
Yeah.
no idea of the time,
Yep.
but that wasn't thanks to the medical staff because I was consistently reminded by the people around me who wanted me to rip off my headphones and talk to them and have a conversation about how long my birthing experience was taking.
Mm.
And you know, I tried to take the clock down and, you know, not look at the time. I didn't want that on my mind, that sort of thing. And that didn't please the midwives very much. But I didn't feel the time. I didn't
Mm.
sense it, not for the entire time. So it sounds like a lot of time, but honestly, and the pushing, I was pushing for 2.5 hours
Mm.
and didn't get very far for 2.5 hours. And the doctor was saying, look, we need you need to now, you know, you're exhausted. And I'm like, no, but I want to keep going. You know, it only felt like 10 minutes to me, like it was
Yeah.
nothing. I felt like I was super motivated to do the pushing because I wasn't feeling any pain. But it turned out that Felix was in what they call the OP position,
Yeah.
and
Posterior. Mm.
it wasn't I think favorable. He was a little bit stuck. God love him, and the doctor needed to use after the 2.5 hour mark the vacuum, so the Kiwi cup, to assist me in delivering Felix.
Yeah.
And that was still proving a little bit of a challenge. The doctor then, this is the doctor, even though he's gone off a shift and then come on for his next shift, this is actually the same doctor who I started with. And he threatened to give me an episiotomy. I literally, anyway, won't go there, but threatened to give me an episiotomy. And that was enough for me and for Felix, because Felix did a quick flip and came flying into the world. And I couldn't have been more happy with that. You know, it was important to me to not have an episiotomy. So it was, yeah, it was good that I didn't need to have that debate at the pointy end of the labour. In fact, just Felix has just come flying out in full support. And even though I did sustain second degree tears, I want to say that during and after the birth, that did not phase me at all. That was, you know, no pain that came from that. And I think that was another, you know, thing I was a little afraid of when I was pregnant, were sort of like, I guess, the injury that you can do to yourself giving birth, and didn't feel it. You know, there was no pain, and no pain during the recovery. And it just amazed me at just how strong and wonderful our bodies are, you know, really being designed for it. So
a lot of women can get very fearful around tearing and episiotomies and things like that. And I like to reinforce the understanding, at least from the thousands of women I've spoken to, I can't even recall of any woman who said that she could feel it at the time. Now, there can be, you know, it can be very uncomfortable afterwards, and there's a bit of repair work that needs to happen and a bit of healing that needs to happen. But at the time, you rarely feel it, and there's such bigger things going on. So, but you sounds like you healed okay from that, Kate?
absolutely. I would, you know, it was absolutely fine. There was no pain that came from it. Obviously, there's a bit of swelling there in the days that followed, but there, I was absolutely fine, and I was just so amazed at just the fact that I'd yeah, been through that, and I was fine.
Yeah. Wow. And what was it like to meet little Felix?
Well, it was amazing to meet Felix. We hadn't found out if we were having a boy or a girl, so I remember that he was delivered and placed on my chest, and the doctor asked, well, do you know what you've had? And we're like, looked at each other. We didn't really care. We were just so happy that our baby was here and healthy. And sure enough, we found out he was a little boy, and we were just so just in love with this little man. He was really healthy, and he sort of was lying on my chest there. We were just looking at him, and of course I was getting stitched up. I'd also had a really severe postpartum hemorrhage and lost about half my blood. So it was pretty massive, and that sort of sent my body into shock. But before my body started to shut down, I remember feeling that there was something not right with Felix. And I wasn't in like an upright position, so I could really barely see Felix. I was lying dead flat. So it was really hard for me to really see him. I could just feel him. I could just know that he was there and sort of see part of his head, and that was about it. And I just remember sort of saying to Rowan, something's not right. And I sort of said to the nurses, he's gone a bit limp, like he just felt different.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they sort of whisked him away and gave him some oxygen. And he was absolutely fine. He bounced back. And my recovery took a little bit longer, being that the hemorrhage, it sort of led on to a few other issues like high temperatures and things like that. So it threw me around for a few hours, but I recovered really well after that. And Felix was really happy, really healthy.
Isn't that interesting?
That was the main thing.
Isn't that interesting, Kate, how you knew something wasn't quite right? And you're a first-time mother, the first time a baby's been placed on your belly and on your chest, and you had a sense that there's something wasn't right. It's so interesting.
Yeah, before having Felix, excuse me, before having Felix, I was, I guess, a fairly timid person when it came to sort of speaking out or saying that something's not right, or even just speaking my truth. And definitely in having Felix, it definitely helped to give me, I guess, the strength and trust in my own voice and in speaking up in that moment, because of course I didn't know what a newborn baby feels like. I don't really, I didn't really know. But it was just something within me that's gone, it just doesn't quite feel right. Something very slight had sort of changed in that moment. And I was really pleased that instead of just going, oh, it's fine, I literally had like 10 other people in the room with me, surely someone's watching the baby. Like, instead of kind of, I guess, assuming that someone else is looking after him, I think I was so pleased that I mentioned that, and that I caught it as early as I did, because maybe somebody would have seen it, but maybe not as fast as I'd felt it, because I'd more felt the change rather than seen the change.
Yeah. That's that mother's instinct that women have, and we don't often know we have it until we use it. And that's when we discover that sense of connection that we have to our children and how we can read those sorts of signs. Wow, Kate, that was quite a marathon effort. How did you feel about yourself after going through? Because you had to be induced. You had a very long labour. You ended up also having a bit of a bleed, and getting through all of that. How did you feel about yourself after all of that? What did it show you?
I felt absolutely so proud of myself. And I still do today, where it brings tears to my eyes, because I am so amazed that I did that. The birth wasn't the smooth, quick, natural, like nobody touched me and I just had a baby and it was beautiful sort of birth that I'd hoped for. But I still got everything that I wanted from that birth. I got a beautiful, healthy baby. I got the opportunity to have a vaginal birth, which I negotiated the entire time because I think this doctor would have been really happy to put me under the knife really early on. But I continued to negotiate my way around that, to the point where I had scored this vaginal birth and this vaginal delivery, and also really proud of myself for and very grateful for my husband's support in helping me to manage the contractions and not requiring the pain medication. For me, that was a goal for me to really try to experience all that birth had, and I didn't want to numb it down with drugs. I really wanted to fully experience it. And I just felt so empowered after that, feeling like I could do anything because this process that I had been so fearful of initially during pregnancy is actually the greatest learning it's enabled the greatest learning about myself as a person. And it geared me up. It geared me up for motherhood, you know, in knowing what I want for my baby and for myself and for my body, and having the voice and the confidence to do what I need to do to ensure that I'm looking after myself and looking after my baby. So I felt incredibly proud, and I felt really pleased with my birthing experience and bringing Felix into the world. It was a different perspective from the doctor, which is probably another story entirely. But I think what I learned about perceptions after the birth and looking back on your own experience is to try really hard not to let the ideas and opinions and perceptions of other people who may or may not have been in the room with you at that time get in the way of really your own feelings. I felt really good about my birthing experience. My doctor felt very traumatized because I wasn't a good little girl who just got that baby out via cesarean like I should have after only a few hours of being induced. You know, I was a bit more of a challenging case for him, I think, and Felix came as quickly as he did at that last moment that I think that doctor found the experience from his perspective quite challenging. And the following day when he came to check up on me, I think he tried to, without knowing, obviously he's just human, but imposed some of that, you know, using the word traumatizing, that sort of language with me. And I was in a very vulnerable place after just giving birth. So I think for me, it took really some debriefing with you, Tracy, and lots of reflecting and speaking to my husband, Rowan, to really come to terms with the fact that I do feel positive about that birthing experience. And any trauma, it wasn't my trauma. That's on the doctor. You know, he's only human. From his perspective, that was his experience. But I felt really strong, really proud of myself and of Felix and of Rowan. And as time goes on, I've just felt more and more proud and strong in these feelings.
Well done you, Kate, for reclaiming your perspective on the birth. I recall doing that debrief with you, and you know, it's interesting when I work with midwives and talk to them about their language and to be really mindful around not projecting their interpretation of the birth onto the birthing mother, because I've heard so many similar stories where women come out going, yeah, that was fantastic, and then they get a midwife or somebody else saying that how difficult the birth was, or complex or traumatic, or using words like trauma, which we bandy around so liberally these days. And then the mother can potentially take that on and start to see her birth very differently, or the opposite, where midwives or doctors can say, oh, you had a wonderful birth, and that mother didn't feel that great about it. So I think it's important women work through their own feelings around their births and allow that process to take place, because birth, once you've had your baby, your birth story isn't static. It continues to evolve. You continue to make sense of it, and the things you focus on straight after the birth then start to shift and kind of morph into other aspects of the birth coming forth into your mind. And the whole process of women coming to terms with what happened is their own path to take. It can help to debrief birth and to talk about what happened, but it's not helpful when other people project their own opinions about whether that birth or what that birth was for them, you know. So I'm glad you brought that point up, Kate, because I think it's a really interesting thing to consider, that our experience is our experience, and we can take that experience and we can continue to learn from it, draw wisdom, draw strength, draw even things like, well, geez, I'm not letting that happen again, or conviction about what they will and won't tolerate. All of that's for the taking in every woman's experience. So, darling, that was a fantastic story of a marathon effort, Kate, from coming to terms with the preeclampsia, getting that extra support, choosing when you were ready to accept the syntocinon in your own time, and being able to have that 2 or 3 hours in the bathroom where you just needed that time to come to terms with this next phase. Going through, 23 to 26 hours of labor and birth without really even feeling the length of those hours, being lost and in the zone with your noise counselling headset. I think that was absolutely gold too. And your just experience around knowing what little Felix needed when he was born and reclaiming your own perspective of birth. That's just an incredible story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Kate. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the audience or pregnant women about birth?
Thank you so much, Tracy. I think that I'm really hopeful that that the people listening are able to find, I guess, some words of wisdom in I guess the stories that they're hearing on your podcast, and can hopefully take hopefully the things that I've learned and it might help to put them in good stead for their own experience. Really, there's just so much power in asking questions as you go, and really negotiating the terms for yourself as much as possible. And yeah, taking that time was really important for me. It really helped to pave the way forward, and just believing in your body, because it really truly is stronger than you think.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing so generously the details of your story. And I hope for those listening that this story will continue to inspire you to believe in your ability to welcome your baby into this world, choosing love over fear, and using these stories to inspire you, and knowing that your path is your path. And Kate had a ride and she felt amazing after such a huge, big ride. And I wish that for all of you as well. Thanks again for listening. Take care. Bye.